Who do you think you are? I'll tell you that even 2 or 3 years ago, I would have told you that I was a deeply damaged person. It brought me to the point of wanting to kill myself, and it brought me to a place where I no longer felt able to give myself to anyone. I just couldn't let people see the loser that I believed I was. So I drank because starting at the age of 16, and to be honest, even a few times before that, I guess really starting at 13, but drinking seriously from the age of 16, when I drank, I felt like a star. I felt sexy and smart. I felt like the people in the room, the bar, wanted me to be there. I didn't feel, at best, tolerated the way I felt before. And so I drank because once I got access to the way that felt, there was there was nothing that was going to stand between me and feeling that way. I wanted to drink to feel free of the horror story I believed I was in. And the worst part was that I, over time, began to pick up that hammer that my classmates were hitting me with, and I began to hit myself with it. And it was only when I was drinking that I would stop. When I moved into my professional life, that became another way that I started to get relief from the torture that I was putting myself through. You see, when I would go to work, I could make my boss proud. My colleagues, the customers, and my boss made me feel for those minutes a way that I couldn't make myself feel. They made me think of myself as worthwhile and talented and good. And so at night, on the weekends, whatever, I would drink and I was a star. And during the day, I would work hard and I was a star. Because let me tell you something, nothing makes you work harder than when your job is one of the only ways you feel good about yourself. But here's the thing, when I traded out one compulsion for four or five, man, my life got chaotic quick. And I spiraled into a really, really dark place. I found myself 425 pounds, diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder. I was $35,000 in credit card debt. I was alone. I couldn't fly anymore, and I had a travel-based job. I stuck out that job for a while, but the day my father died, I got that call from my sister, and I was in New York. I lived in New Orleans, and you see, at my size, at 425 pounds, I was so big that sometimes, usually, the seatbelt extender would work, but not always. Some of them were too small. They aren't all the same length. And uh, when I would walk down the aisle, you could just see the terror in people's eyes, hoping that I wasn't going to sit next to them because I took up a full seat and a half. So the day my father died, I had to book a window seat on a sold out flight. And I never booked a window seat. I always booked an aisle seat because I could, spill out into the aisle a little bit. Um, but this time it wasn't possible. And there I was, seated against the window, and the middle seat was empty. And someone walked up and they refused to take that seat. So that day, that same day, my father had died. And I'm leaning against the window, trying to black out the world in so much pain. And the person refused to take their seat on a sold out flight. Now, this wasn't the first time this happened. This was the third time this had happened to me on a sold out flight. But let me paint this picture for you. The flight attendant has to find a volunteer willing to sit in that seat, or we can't take off. So imagine what it feels like on the day your father died to have the flight attendant begging people, going to petite people and begging them to come sit next to me. Monster that I was. Now, it's not really their fault. I mean, it wasn't fair for them to have to be put in such an uncomfortable situation. But that doesn't mean it wasn't painful. So she found someone, and this small lady took the seat. I thanked her for being willing to sit next to me. And over the course of the entire flight, the flight attendant came by and continued to offer her gifts, food, beverages, all in appreciation for being willing to take this seat. And it was in that moment that I decided I just couldn't do this job anymore. So I quit right there. There I found myself, as I mentioned, $35,000 in debt, no savings. I moved into my mother's house. There was no room. I would carry a mattress into the living room every night, and that's where I would sleep, attached to my CPAP machine. In my 30s, 6 prescriptions, a machine to make sure I didn't choke on myself at night, no friends, no romance, no job. And I was ready. I was ready to sink into darkness. I was just ready. I mean, there's no bouncing back from that. Surely, if someone could come back from that, they would film documentaries about that person. It would be extraordinary. There's no hope. But there was something that happened as she told me that she saw the love pouring out of me. I believed in just a small way that I wasn't damaged beyond repair. I reached out to a former boss in Orlando and I told her that I was going to restart my life and I was going to figure out a way to just not hurt, just have a reasonable life. She told me, "Oh my gosh, please come to Orlando. Please come here. You can work for me. I can't pay you what you're used to making, but I can give you a little something and you can do projects for me while you job hunt. Come on back. So I went back to Orlando. There were about 10 people in that department where I was, and they rallied around me like pillars and just lifted me up, all 425 pounds of me. And I'll tell you, my spirit weighed a lot more than that. And they lifted me up. And they were so happy to see me walk through the door every morning. And they wanted to sit next to me. They wanted to sign birthday cards for me, and they wanted to have lunch together. And I don't know. I don't know what happened, and I don't know why, but these people loved me in a way that I couldn't love myself. And I was only there for 11 months. But I'll tell you what, that boss and that team saved my life. It didn't matter who I thought I was because they told me who they thought I was. They planted a seed, they gave me an idea, and I don't know what they were selling, but I bought it. I bought it. And that relaunched me. And I began to invest in finding out who I truly was. Behind all of these awful stories that I believed about myself, who was I? Why was it that those 10 or 12 people back in Orlando saw something magnificent and worthy of love in me? Why couldn't I see that? So I started to dig. All suffering begins with a story that we believe that argues with reality. My classmates shouldn't have treated me this way. Okay, it's what happened. It was what happened. Maybe I shouldn't have treated myself that way. Maybe I shouldn't have accepted that. Maybe I should have gotten help. Maybe I shouldn't have believed what they said about me. Because I'm going to tell you that the pain they caused me over 4 years was nothing compared to the 15 years that followed, the pain I caused myself. I shouldn't have done that to myself. It has nothing to do with them. Life wasn't fair. Yeah, I believe that. And when I believe it, it hurts. What do you believe? Who do you think you are? Because I have news for you. The person you think you are is the person you are. Let me do for you what that therapist did for me. Let me shake you out of your fog. You don't deserve to live a life in that fog. You were born for magnificence. You were born for glory and joy. And if you don't have glory and joy in a magnificent life, you are the only person who can fix it. You are the only person powerful enough to stop yourself. The only thing strong enough to cut a diamond is a diamond. And so I'm going to leave you with a challenge. The challenge is the next time you absorb and accept a thought that is negative, I'll never make that sales goal. No one wants to go out with me. I can't save up money. I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. I really deserved it. The next time you believe a thought like that, just just investigate it. Just look at it and say, is it true? Is it true? Very rarely should a negative thought ever be true. And if you can't come up with an answer other than yes, then go to someone who loves you and ask them, do you think this is true? And let them do for you what you can't do for yourself. Let them shine the light on you that you were born to shine on yourself. And you will find over time that you will glow brighter and you will cause ripples in the people around you that will never reach the shore. That's what you were born for. It's your superpower. Who do you think you are? I know who you are already. Do you? It's time to find out.